Okay, let's look at bonds. Let's just first, before we have to sell our bond we just bought, we're looking at how a bond works. So a bond is just an IOU. It's like a loan. And just say we have a $1,000 bond. And say we have a coupon of $10. So the coupon is your interest. It's what you get at the end of the maturity. Say it's 1 year here. So that means your future value is what? What do you get at the end of 1 year in your hands? Yeah, 110. You're going to have $1,010 at the end of the maturity. So the implied yield, you could say that which will be the same as the coupon rate. The yield is your interest made. So the yield is how much? If you use your thing again, you start out with 1,000, you end up with 10. What's your ratio? Somebody calculate this.
1% or 1.01.
Yeah, 1.01. So that's a 1% increase. This is 101%. So at first, the coupon is like having a 1% yield on this bond if you held it to maturity. And you don't have to use those words. It's just like you're making 1% on this investment. Okay, so what happens if competitive rates out in the market change and investors can get 10% on an equivalent bond? And you're trying to sell your bond, so you need money in a hurry. This bond doesn't look good to them, right? It's only making 1%. So they're not going to pay $1,000 just to earn 1% when they can, say, earn 10% in the open market there. Say rates have changed and now Treasury bonds are offering 10%. What can be done to have them earn 10%? So this equation needs to be what? 1.1, right? Because they say the secondary buyer is going to pay initially for your bond something, and they're going to get something at 1 year, and they want to make sure that ratio is 1.1 to make 10%. Now, how does this come about anyway? Well, these alternative investments out there are always changing. Interest rates are changing. So bonds are fixed. Bonds are contracts, and you can't change them. So when 10% is offered out there, investors want those kind of investments, those bonds. But they can also make 10% out of your own bond. What is the future value of your old bond? Yeah, that never changes because that's in the contract. And we don't know what they're going to pay now, but we know the ratio has to be 1.1 in order for that increase to represent 10%. So you just substitute for this. How do you isolate? Yeah, basically switch these around, multiply both sides by PV, divide both sides by 1.1, and you're left with this. So what? Yeah, so 918 should be the present value. That's what someone should pay for your old bond to make 10%, assuming they will get 1010 at the end. You see how that works? So what about you? Do you lose money then? Yeah, if you paid $1,000 originally, now you're selling it for 918. Yeah, you're going to lose money. You could have held it for a year and made money, made 10-10. But if you're selling it early and trying to turn that into a 10% security, you know, the price has to go down. Why would people do that? Yeah, they can't wait. They want the money now, and you can't sell it out there for $1,000 because people want a better return. This was what happens to some banks out there, like last year, Sun Valley Bank. They had kind of a run on their deposits. They needed cash to pay out to their depositors. They had a lot of cash stuck in bonds, which is, you know, smart because the bonds are safe and they make interest, but they needed cash now to pay their withdrawing depositors. So what they had to do is sell their bonds on the open market. Interest rates have risen since they last bought their lower interest bonds, and they lost money on it, so they went out of business. They couldn't make it. So, you know, you don't want to do that all the time, but maybe you can be the buyer. You can go out there and look for these opportunities as long as you can make a good interest. So what happens